Welcome back, everybody, to Sports with Mono and Mono. I'm Jim, and again, unfortunately, I have to apologize. Some personal matter came up with my partner, so he's not able to be with us today. But it's a funny thing about life. Sometimes you got to put the important things ahead of fun, and I'm here to have some fun with you guys today, talking sports. That's fun. Unfortunately, Steve can't be here, but he'll be back with us next week. And of course, he's here in spirit. So there are a lot of things to talk about. Today's the 29th day of August. It's hard to believe the summer's almost over. 1 week in Labor Day, and a few months from now it'll be snow. But there's a lot going on, obviously. There's a lot going on in sports. There's a lot going on in our society and so forth. So, again, we're not a political organization and a political show or a sports show. But right now, with the ways of the world and the social things that are going on, sports is playing a very prominent role. And it's something, we all have to take notice of. It's happening. There's a lot of bad things going on, and so we have all of these sports leagues, the NBA kind of taking the lead, right? Milwaukee Bucks, first team to boycott and so forth. And I fully support these guys. I'm not sure what it's going to accomplish, because I think people are already taking notice of what's happening. But listen, LeBron James and the NBA and Chris Paul, whoever these guys are that are leading it, it's something they had to do, and we fully support them. We always have supported the right to protest and stand up and be heard, and these guys are being heard. And a lot of the other sports leagues followed suit, which you knew they would, and so forth. And again, we're sports people, and that's what we're here to talk about. But, unfortunately, there's been unprecedented events that have happened over the past, let's say 6 months, right? And it started with the coronavirus, and that's still going on, although, as we talk a little bit more into the show, things are starting to happen and so forth. So, but we just hope things settle down out there. It's not a good situation society-wise, and, these protests and so forth. Like I said, I'm not sure, outside of bringing, the people that only watch sports and don't know what's going on in the world, there shouldn't be many of them, because, we've been faced with a lot of uncertainties and crazy things over the past 6 months. So, like I said, we fully support the protests and whatever these guys want to do. And before we get off that topic, there's something I just wanted to bring up, because I brought this up on the show, I want to say 5 or 6 weeks ago. And again, it's relating to the social issues that are going on. It's the right to protest and so forth. But I had brought this up saying, listen, why don't we try to meet in the middle of the road here? Why don't we do something like, we play the national anthem at every sporting event in this country, right? Professional, every level of sports, every social engagement, and it's important, right? And people have the right to protest and so forth. And the Colin Kaepernick thing and so forth. Can we do this? Can we meet in the middle of the road and say, you people who are protesting, whoever you are, and it's everybody across every league. It's not just black. It's not just white. It's everybody. Everybody is in support of social justice, as I am as well. Whatever means of protest, you may have that moment before the national anthem, after the national anthem. Let the national anthem stand alone. If you guys want to take a knee and use that as the forum to get a message across, fine. I have no problem with that. And the reason that I'm bringing this up, because, and this hurts me it pains me to say it as much as it does for you guys to hear it, but nobody's even brought that up as a potential option, and I'm not sure it is. I'm just throwing it out there. so we don't lose it as in versus the national anthem and the right to protest. We could do both. We could do both before a sporting event. And when I'm saying it pains me, because the only one I've heard even mention this as something that may be plausible was Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys, who I'm not a big fan of. I don't like his character. I don't like a lot about the Dallas Cowboys. And thank goodness my partner Steve's not here, because he's a Dallas Cowboy fan. But I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan because of the players that have played for the Dallas Cowboys and so forth. But this guy's the owner. But he did bring it up as a compromise. And, like I said, I brought this up 6 weeks ago. And I'm not the mediator here, but it's a suggestion I'd like to throw out there. And you guys feel free to send us an email at sportswithmano@gmail.com. Say, hey, that's a crazy idea, or that's something to talk about, or whatever. But the situation that we're in right now is it's explosive, it's volatile, and it's dangerous. And we all have young kids and so forth that are going to have to grow up in this society, and it needs to be fixed. And I don't know what that is, and I won't go into that because I'm not a political guy. But we do support the social justice, no question. Nobody should be treated any differently than anybody else. And yes, it does happen, and yes, there should be consequences, but it does need to come to an end. But anyway, so that's our opening monologue, I guess, if you want to call it that. But let's jump into some sports. And of course, our first segment is sponsored by Coriano Trucking of Haverstraw, New York, who they'll get your load from point A to point B. You just give them a call, tell them you heard it from Sports with Mano and Mano, and he'll take care of you. And we thank them for their continued support and sponsorship of our show. So let's jump into it. Where do we start? I guess the NBA, right? So there was a few days off. Whatever their decisions are, they're coming back to play. Some guys are playing, guys like Westbrook, I don't know if he's playing and whatnot. But I have been watching more of the NBA than I normally do. There's some pretty good talent. There's some really, really good talent. And it's, like I said, there's going to be an asterisk with this and just every other sport as well. But focusing on that, and I wanted to bring this particular guy up, and I wish Steve was here to talk to this about, because again, we don't watch a lot of NBA. It's a different game than it was when we used to watch and never miss the Knicks game in the 70s or the 80s. And I'm bringing this up, and everyone's going to say, well, you're bringing it up because this guy made this phenomenal shot. Well, he did make a phenomenal three-point shot at the buzzer to win the game. This guy for the Luka Doncic. But I watched him the whole game before that big shot. This guy is an unbelievable basketball player. I mean, he's got a body like Karl Malone, and he's got a game like Larry Bird. He can shoot and drive, and he's so flexible. And this kid's only, 21, 22 years old? What a bright future this kid has. And, he did all this on a sprained ankle, but, it was actually good. I actually enjoyed watching some of the NBA. I still think they want the Lakers and the Bucks in the finals. That's how it's going to pan out in the long run. I'm not wavering on that one bit. However, there is a lot of good talent across the NBA, and it's been fun to watch. I got to say, it's been fun to watch. But I had never really seen a full game with this kid, Luka Doncic. He's a great player. And like I said, he's an up-and-comer. He's going to be the face of the NBA, because LeBron James is, let's just say, he's still LeBron James, but he's been in this league for a long time, and you can't do it forever. So, but the NBA, hey, they're back at it, and listen, I'll watch more of it than I used to. Let's move on to the NHL, because that took a couple of days off as well, in support of the protest. But there was one interesting thing, and I didn't bring it up on the last show, and I certainly meant to. Certainly, if Steve was here, the The Boston Bruins, they're playing the Lightning right now. Great series. Actually, the game's probably on right now. But Tuukka Rask, the starting goaltender for the Boston Bruins, opts out after the start of the series. So the season's in full playoff mode, and this guy opted out. And I just don't know what kind of feedback or he's going to get from his teammates in the long run. But again, right, we all say, if you opt out, you must have a concern that this virus is a potential dangerous thing for you, your family, your teammates, or your friends, whatever it may be. But it was a kind of a surprise, not as much a surprise like Cespedes for the Mets. You knew he was looking for any way out, so he called it to opt out. I think Rask's his position is that he's opting out because he's concerned, but not like Cespedes. But there's some good hockey going on. I'm really enjoying it. Listen, dig your, get comfortable in your seat because the Islanders-Flyers series is probably going to go 7 games. But it's a tough, hard-hitting thing. And again, Steve and I both mentioned last time that the Islanders looking really good. They got a lot of good young talent. They got the best coach in hockey. They got the best general manager. And but it's going to be a tough Islander-type Flyer series, which I didn't realize they hadn't played in the playoffs in 30 years or something like that. I mean, that was kind of surprising. But this is a old Patrick Division type playoff series, and they got to bounce back. They lost in overtime last week, before the stoppage and so forth. But they're good. And I want to point out this guy for Vancouver, this guy Bo Horvath. I mean, he's actually leading the playoffs in goals scored. I think he's got 9. But some phenomenal moves, a highlight reel. And again, that's West Coast hockey. So on the East Coast, we're watching the Rangers, the Islanders, the Devils. We don't get to see Vancouver and Edmonton and those guys that often. This guy is a player. He's an unbelievable puck handler and scorer, and very excited to watch the rest of the Flyers Islander series and the Bruins Lightning and so forth. It's really cool stuff to watch. Love hockey, love it. So that's coming back, and let's move on, and we'll move on to baseball. And our baseball segment is sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut, and again, longtime supporter and sponsor of our show, and we certainly thank them and hope they're all well up in Connecticut. Let's move on to baseball. And, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we were talking about the Yankees like they were the 27 Yankees. They couldn't be beat. It was unbelievable, this lineup, top to bottom. Well, what happened? Along the way, Judge gets hurt again. Stanton gets hurt again. Just decimated. Paxton hurt again, kind of thing. So they've come back to earth. They're on a 7-game losing streak right now. Got swept by the Mets yesterday. And, this is the kind of stuff that we saw last year, and yet all these guys came in. That's how we found the guys like Urshela. He could play. Tuckman, he could play. Frazier, he could play. So these guys they're all going to have to show up because these big name guys, and again, we've talked time and time again, if Aaron Judge can't stay on the field, is he going to get a Mike Trout sized contract? I don't know. It's amazing. These guys have the access to the best trainers and equipment and so forth, and they're pulling calf muscles. I just don't get it. It's very, very frustrating. The guy is a bright spot in the Yankees organization and for their future, and I see they'll sign him at all costs, but he's got to stay on the field. Stanton, we could say, we gave this a chance, and this guy just doesn't, for some reason, that just can't stay on the field. I don't know if it's because he doesn't want to. And I brought back, maybe he did get beamed. He did get a nasty pitch to the head, and maybe he's just never gotten over it. It's quite possible. But these young kids, they got these other kids, this kid Flourier. He never even played double A, triple A. They brought him right up from single A. He was one of the hot top prospects for the Yankees, so he's going to get a chance to play. But I will give credit to this Clint Frazier. He's really starting to show that he's more than just a fill-in guy. But with a lineup like that, they're so loaded. They got so many. It's hard to find space for him. But I think they're going to have to find space for him somewhere, because every time he does, he seems to produce. I'll give him credit for that. But there is also one guy that's not carrying his weight, and we talked about it, that it's only a 60-game season. How are they going to get 60 games fit in with all these rainouts and cancellations and so forth? But they'll have to play doubleheaders, which they're doing, but it drives me crazy because they're only 7 innings. Baseball's supposed to be 9. But Gary Sanchez, they said it takes this guy 60 games to start warming up. So it's possible he's going to hit, below the Mendoza line, and he's hitting, he came up in big situations yesterday and looked ridiculous at swinging at pitches that he should, by this time in his career, have no right at swinging. But he's hitting $170, something like that. So it's going to, we're less than 30 games out from the completion of this season. So he better start hitting, because Cole can't carry this team by himself. He did get roughed up a little bit the other night, but the Yankees got holes. Chad Green came up and gave up a 3-run homer yesterday to the Polar Bear, and 2 other ones before he left. So something's different about him, because when he first came up with the Yankees, he was outstanding. He's just going through, I don't know if it's a medical issue or not, but he's not the same guy he once was. But baseball is heating up, and I want to focus on that. The Mets, outside of Jacob deGrom and Conforto, and I guess J.D. Davis, I got to watch him a couple days. He's a good ball player too, but Conforto can hit, no question. But outside of deGrom, the Mets aren't going anywhere. But there are some good surprises in Major League Baseball, right? Tampa Bay. Again, it seems like year after year, they got these no-name kids. They turn it over, and Kevin Cash doing an unbelievable job for them. They're starting to pull away from the Yankees. If we don't get, we could turn around next week and they could be 5 up. So that's a surprise team. And I will. Steve brought this up, that he really did like San Diego, and I said, well, it was early in the season. All they got is Machado and Tatis, but they're winning a lot of games, and they're hitting the ball all over the place. So, I'm starting to say, let me watch San Diego. Like I said, I was a big fan of the Yankees not signing Machado. I knew he had this potential to put up these numbers, but I always thought he was too big of a locker room distraction to even consider signing for $300 million. But he seems to fit in well out there. And this kid Tatis, he's a great player. So that's a good surprise. And listen, just so, when we're talking about baseball again, so it looks like it's going to be Steve Cohen who's going to buy the Mets, right? J-Lo and A-Rod have decided to, for lack of a better term, opt out on buying this. So dealing with the Wilpons must be, nuts, because Cohen's got all the money in the world. So I don't know what, the question is, can he afford it? Of course he can afford it. But, dealing with the Wilpons, the fact that he withdrew his bid, last year because it was impossible. I don't know what's making it possible to deal with them again, but it looks like he's going to buy the Mets. And just because we're a little partial, we're alumni of St. Joseph Regional High School, and we're going to talk about their football team a little bit later in the show. But from a baseball perspective, a little minor trade. Most people would consider it minor. Tommy LaStella, graduate of St. Joe's, has played for several different teams, but good ball player, second baseman. He was traded from the Angels to the Oakland Athletics. And the A's are always in there, right? They're another team just like Tampa Bay. They got a small payroll, but these kids come to play and so forth. And now he's an experienced veteran, so we wish Tommy LaStella good luck in his trek up north, because he went from the Angels to the A's, but he's staying in California. So good luck to him. again, baseball, it's happening. Doesn't seem to be any problem. There was some issue, and I wanted to bring this up a little bit before about the testing inaccuracies, and it was more prevalent in the NFL. But they're going to start playing football too, and there doesn't seem to be a rampant spread, as a matter of fact. But again, it puts it in your mind when you're talking about these testings, and it comes back and they're false negatives. So, we got to be careful about it. But right now, from the NFL perspective, it doesn't seem like the season is in jeopardy. And, the reason I say that, because today there's 6 high school football games on ESPN. And, that tells you that football's coming back. College football, we could talk about this. It is coming back, but there's a lot of lower level games. No marquee matchups this weekend. But I guess the most well-known game would be Monday night. It's Navy and BYU. But the games today are, Central Arkansas, those kind of Midwest type smaller schools. So, but we all thought that the Big Ten was done for the season, right? When it came up, but there's still, somebody put life back into this idea, and they're actually I don't know who's considering it. I think if the Big Ten made this decision that football is not going to happen, I don't know where this proposal came from about starting around Thanksgiving weekend. And again, the concern about that is thinking, okay, well, we're going to start around Thanksgiving. That means we're going to end around New Year's, and then, we're right on the heels of the next season. So I don't know if that's a realistic possibility, but I did hear that they're going to talk about that. It doesn't seem to be an issue with the Alabamas and Clemson. These guys are going out. They're going to start playing football. And one of the games I was watching, high school football, and we love high school football on this show because these are the future collegiate stars and they're the future NFL stars, right? Just reference like the McCourty twins, right? St. Joe's guys went to Rutgers, prominent careers in the NFL. Devin, possible Hall of Famer with his career. So it's great to see. But football is back on the schedule. College, and one of our listeners, Walter Hahn, big Arkansas fan, said maybe this is the year. Well, this is not going to be the year we're going to be screaming Pigs Who-wee, right, which is the Arkansas theme song. But there are going to be Alabama. There are going to be Clemson games, so some of the big games, but I still don't think we're going to see Ohio State, Michigan, and, maybe that replaces the New Year's games. I don't know. Is it a possibility? It's being talked about. So when I bring up football in general, again, we hope the NFL, it's 2 weeks away, right? I think they open on a Thursday. So the Giants are they're 2.5 weeks away, right? 2 weeks from tomorrow. Jets, so there's a lot of optimism on the East Coast. A lot of faces have changed places. We know Tom Brady is now in Tampa. Cam Newton's in New England. Phillip Rivers is in Indianapolis. So we know all of these different things. But again, remember, and Jim Walsh, one of our loyal listeners, brought up saying, hey, there's been relatively no hitting in training camp. There were no preseason games, so the first few games could be kind of the training camp games, preseason games, if you will. Except in this case, they all matter, and how these teams prepare and how they get ready for the season, we're going to see. It's going to make it an interesting. I can't say I'm of course I'm going to watch Tom Brady as the Tampa Bay Buck. It's hard to wrap my head around that because. I thought for sure he was going to stay with New England, but I think I understand his motives now. And Cam Newton taking control. Look, I wasn't sure. They talked a little bit about potential platooning with these other guys, but no, they brought Cam Newton in to be the quarterback. If he can stay healthy, and if he could stay in good standing with his head coach, who's a tough man to work for, but he demands the best. It should be good. But as far, like I said, I brought up the high school football game I was watching was Trinity and Knoxville Catholic, and two starting quarterbacks for each team. One was the son of Deion Sanders, who happens to be the head coach of Trinity in Tennessee. No, not the head coach, the offensive coordinator. Excuse me. And on the other side of the ball for Knoxville Catholic was the son of former Tennessee, and this is where I miss Steve because he remembers this stuff even better than I do, but we all certainly remember T. Martin, quarterback at Tennessee. So it's, like I said, the old saying, the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. It really doesn't. And but it's good to see. There was like five other guys that had former NFL players. Their fathers were former NFL players. So high school football's back. But when we talk about this, and again, we're talking about East Coast football and the St. Joe's and the Don Bosco's and the Bergen Catholics. These are powerhouses, just like those Knoxville Catholic is in Tennessee and all the other schools out in California. High school football is awesome. And here's where I was always wondering about the St. Joe's season, and it's going to be cut short. It's going to start a little bit later. So there were some games that got canceled already, but you're going to see the rivalries you want to see: the Bergens, Boscos, the Bosco Joes, the Joes, Bergen. It's going to start happening. So there's going to be a shortened season. I don't know the playoff format yet, but we're looking forward to this, and especially the impact and a lot of changes at St. Joe's. Augie Hoffman, head coach for the past 6-7 years. Now an assistant over at Rutgers, and Dan Morangi took over for St. Joe's. So it's a bumpy way to get off, but there's going to be at least a 5-game season. And I want to say the Northeast. I don't know for sure because it's up to a lot of school districts and the conferences that are in. But excited to see that we're going to see some football. Actually, I don't know, whether or not we're going to be able to go. If the Jets and the Giants aren't able to have fans, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to go to a high school football game, but maybe they'll put it on some satellite TV and we'll get to watch it. But football's back. Football is back. And everything's going on. All major sports are happening at the same time. And it's great to see. It's great to see. So there are some other sports that are happening. Let's touch on that before we end our little solo venture together. The BMW Championship is underway right now. It's anybody's tournament right now. There's so many guys at the top, but you see guys like McElroy. He's up there, and a lot of these young guns. This. What was his name? Jim, the guy that won last week. I can't even remember his last name right now, but Jim Herman, right? He's in there. All these young guns, Tony Finau and so forth. So it's great golf. They're at Olympia Fields out in Chicago. It's underway. Third round's underway, but the leaderboard. And let's see, Dustin Johnson, of course, is up there, which I wanted to mention because he shot an unbelievable round at the Northern Trust last week, and we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but he won that tournament by double-digit strokes, and that doesn't happen on the PGA Tour. It hasn't happened in a while. But let's see if he can bounce back. He has shown, and we did mention he has a propensity to be up at the top and have a share of the 54-hole lead and not win. And I wanted to clarify that because I think I meant what I did mean was in majors, and I think we said he was 0 for 3 or 0 for 4, but he has had that in regular tournaments. So I want to give an apology to him because it made it sound like he never won a tournament after a 54-hole share of the lead, but that's not true. So he's an unbelievable golfer, but it's great to see. This will be top 70 guys left standing are in there, and only 30 make it to next week. Or we're going to see. It's East Lake Country Club, but who's having a tough time out there is Tiger Woods. So is it his back? Is he Not the same Tiger Woods. Again, we talked about it. We still think there's possibilities he has another major in him, but it's not going to be the FedEx Championship because he's having a tough time out there. But a lot of the young guns are up there. And again, I'm pulling for Tony Finau. He's one of my favorite up and comers, and he just hasn't been able to close the door on these big championships and majors and so forth. But I still think he's got a lot of potential. And but once Rory McIlroy gets a taste of the lead, he tends to keep it. So we got to keep an eye on it. He's only got a one-shot lead, so like I said, it's wide open. And this is the second to last of the FedEx tournaments, and we'll see who the champ is going to be. But it's fun to watch. It's been great golf, and we have the Masters still to look forward to. Hard to believe, but that's going to be played not in the first, when it's normally been played. But I think, from what I understand, there's not going to be any fans allowed at that either. So, but the Kentucky Derby's coming up, right? That's only another week away, and there's some good horses. We'll talk about that on our next show because tis the law. You got to always pull for the guy who's got a possibility of winning the Triple Crown until he doesn't, right? He's going to be the favorite, but there's also a great horse. Art Collector is going to be in that race. So there's going to be some other good horses that have all been prepping up where, of course, it's Saratoga. And believe it or not, there's only another week left in the summer meet up at Spa, which has been run. It's been run all year, past 6 weeks, but with no fans. But I've seen some great horses. The jockeys are great, and it's hard to believe. But speaking of Saratoga, tomorrow is the Forgo. It's a Grade 1 race. Really good horses in there. And the favorite is Whitmore, and rightfully so. He's a really, really good horse. But I'm going to give you my two horses that I think will at least finish in the top three, and one of them could sneak in. I like Funny Guy. I like the name. It's funny. But I like the horse, and I actually have seen him run some races, and I really like him. And my reach, if you will, or somebody that's worth a sawbuck is win-win-win. He's been around. He's got a chance. It's kind of a wide open race, but again, Whitmore should be the favorite. But Sports with Mono and Mono, at least Jim is going with Funny Guy. And we know Corey's probably going to play the race. So, Corey, win-win-win. All right? Good luck with that. The Forgo today at Saratoga, which is closing out. So, listen, I just wanted to mention our last sponsor is D. Filippi's Bakery from Monticello, New York. And again, I hope all is well with them. We thank them very much for their support and their sponsorship. And, like I said, they make incredible pastry products and so forth. And we thank them very, very much. So usually our last segment, and again, I wish Steve was here because he knows some of these stats a little better than I guess that's because he's younger than I. But our notable passings, and I think the top of our list is Lute Olson, former head basketball coach at Arizona for many years. Put some great teams. I think he made 4 Final Fours and 1 national championship. 85. He was a very well-dressed, really one of the top coaches in college basketball history. And he passed away this week. And again, I think I even mixed them up. When Lou Henson passed away a few weeks ago, we mentioned him on Notables because they always reminded me of one another for some reason. But, he did win a national championship, and he did have, I think he had 4. I'm going to say he had 4 Final Four teams. Great coach, big loss for college basketball, one of the all-time guys. And to think, he was 85 years old. It's hard to believe. But he was a great college basketball coach. One other notable from basketball was Clifford Robinson. Clifford Robinson UConn product, played forever in the NBA, played for a bunch of different teams. But one thing I didn't know, when you talk about, think of how many guys played in the NBA, how many players played in the NBA, in the past 50 years, right? And you talk about games played, all-time games played, and you talk about top 20. I mean, you're going to know every single one of them. Well, this one I didn't know. Clifford Robinson, 13th on the all-time games played list in the NBA. Relatively young man, 53. Really good player, made some all-star teams and so forth. But the news came in today. We heard that he passed away, but he's certainly a notable from an NBA perspective. And we wanted to bring that up. And one final notable passing was... he's a young actor. When I say young, in his 40s, I think he was 43 years old. Chadwick Boseman. Now, a lot of people may know him from the movie Black Panther, big movie, big popular movie. I've seen some of it, not all of it. But I think when I'm bringing this up and we're talking about, and especially because we're talking about this was an anniversary of Jackie Robinson coming into the major leagues, which was celebrated by Major League Baseball this past day or two. But Chadwick played Jackie Robinson in the movie 42, and I'm not going to look it up because that would be doing with like what Rosenberg on the Michael Kay show does. He doesn't know the answer. He looks it up. But I'm not going to look it up. I'm going to say it was around 2011, maybe 2012. But he played a great role, and he portrayed Jackie Robinson outstandingly. And he was a fine young actor, and he passed away. So, like I said, it's kind of ironic that he played Jackie Robinson in this Jackie Robinson time we just mentioned. But he was a good actor. Seemed like a good kid, all on in front of and behind the screen. So we wanted to mention that as well. And before I sign off, there is just one personal shout out I want to give, and it's to my daughter. It's to my oldest daughter, Nicole. Her birthday is this week, and not only is it her birthday, it's also my niece's birthday, Emily. But I give a shout out to them. Happy birthday, Nick. She's been quarantined with everybody else and homeschooling, my grandkids and so forth, and she's doing amazing. And it's a happy birthday to her, and of course, and to you too, Emily. And of course, I'm going to say hello to my other daughter, Danielle. Have fun at the beach, honey. So thanks for joining us, everybody. And again, Steve sends his absolute regrets that he couldn't make the show. But again, if it couldn't be helped, we certainly understand that, because this is fun for us. This is what we talk about, sports, and I'd love to hear from you guys. So send us an email at sportswithmonoandmono@gmail.com. We want to hear from you guys, and especially it could be on any topic. We talked about a lot today. When you're by yourself and so forth, sometimes I feel maybe I'm rambling because I want to get it all in. But I want to hear from you guys and say, hey, Tim, you missed the mark on this, or your stance on the national anthem is wrong, or whatever. My feelings won't be hurt. But I love being with you guys. I love that you listen to the show. And, Paul Lawless from Niagara, get the boys back on. They've been on vacation for a few weeks, so hope to get them back soon. And thanks to all of our regular listeners, the Mike Garveys in Naples, and the Jim Walshes and the Coreys, and you guys know who you are. And thanks for joining us. But we'll talk to you next week. Enjoy the sporting events that are happening, the playoffs, the horse races, the golf. Enjoy it. Send us an email. We'll talk about it next week. But thanks for joining us. Look forward to seeing you guys. Thanks.